This is episode number 27 of the Everything Ham Radio podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking with Christopher LaRue, W4ADL. We're going to be talking about ham radio operators with disabilities. And later in our club spotlight, we're going to be talking about the Courage Kennedy Handy Ham program. So stay tuned. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Everything Ham Radio podcast. This podcast is released every Tuesday morning. You can find all the links that we're going to be talking about, as well as possibly some additional information in this episode, in the show notes at everythinghamradio.com/podcast/27. That's the number 27. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/everythinghamradio and on Twitter at K5CLM. So, today, we're going to be talking about ham radio operators with disabilities. And to cover this topic, we are talking with Christopher LaRue, Whiskey for Alpha Delta Lima. He is a visually impaired amateur radio extra licensee, I believe, out of Las Vegas, Nevada. So, we're going to be talking about him here in just a little bit, but I got a couple little things I want to let y'all know about to kind of give y'all a heads up. A little bit later, Gigaparts has given me a coupon code for a discount. And there is some limitations to it, so you're going to have to pay attention a little bit later in the show to find out what the coupon code is and what the limitations are. This coupon code is good for about a month. It's good until August the 18th. So if you are looking to buy a new radio, antenna, computer, laptop, tablet, metal detector, maybe some emergency gear, stuff like that, head on over to gigaparts.com and check them out. They were also kind enough to donate a GMAG to give away as a raffle item type thing, kind of like we did with the Pac-10 a while back. Well, I was kind of wondering what this GMAG was, so I went on their website and did a little search. And this GMAG thing is actually really neat. It is a 6 AA battery charger. It will charge NiCad and it will charge NiMi batteries. It also comes with 6 I believe NiMi batteries. But the difference with this GMAG than a normal charger is it does it with salt water. Yeah, you heard me right. It does it with salt water. Basically, from what I'm understanding from the page itself, is you put the batteries in there and it has this fuel cell, and you add either salt water or regular tap water with table salt in it, and it will charge up 6 AA batteries in 2 hours, fully charged. And will do the equivalent of, I believe it says 90 AA batteries. So that's like carrying around 90 AA batteries in your Go Pack. Granted, it's going to take 2 hours to charge them, but if you got 12 of them, you can have 2 of them on there all the time. It can be charging in your backpack while you're walking up to your summit that you're going to for a soda activation, or while you're standing a post or something like that at some disaster. It's a really neat thing. Anyways, they've donated one of these for a raffle, and we'll probably next episode is when we're gonna start taking entries for that. But anyways, stay tuned for that. Also have a couple other announcements I'm going to do a little bit later, so stay tuned. And I guess let's go ahead and move on with Christopher LaRue, Whiskey for Alpha Delta Lima. Hey everybody, this is Curtis with the Everything Ham Radio podcast. Today I am here with Chris LaRue. Is that how you say it, Chris?
Yes, that's correct.
Well, Chris, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit more and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a visually impaired ham radio operator with the call sign Whiskey 4 Alpha Delta Lima. I was originally licensed in early 91 with the no code license, and then I soon upgraded with the 5 words per minute to the Technician Plus. And after I passed the 5, you know how those guys are at the testing sessions. Come on, Monica, try the next one.
Yep.
So I tried the 13 and I made it. If I would have missed one more, I would have been done. But I did. I made it. So then that kind of pushed me to get my general because, I had that CSCE in my pocket. And I moved to North Carolina and I took my general. And I didn't go any further than that at the time because I could never get my code past 15 words per minute. So I stayed a general up until I got back active again. I've been inactive as a ham radio operator since about 1999. And since I moved here to Vegas in 2004, I hadn't really had a place to put an antenna or anything because I was living, how living in a condo is.
Oh, yeah.
But I have been getting the bug lately, and about 2 months ago, I turned on my phone and I saw the Echo link in the Google Play app. So I said, you know what? I've been registered on Echo Link for a long time. So I went ahead and loaded up Echo Link, and I was scrolling through, and I saw the World server, Star World Star. It's IRLP 9251. And I logged in, and I started listening, and they were running a net. And it was noon Eastern, 9 Pacific every morning, 7 days a week. And they were really relaxed and didn't really, they're all about just getting to know people and just running a net, and it's basically people worldwide logging in. And I found out that they also ran a world friendship net in the evenings at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern, and that runs 6 days a week. And each net has, like different, some of them are round tables. Like, for instance, the Thursday night net, it takes a class from the general question pool, and everybody gets to answer it. And at the end, they tell you what the correct answer was. And on Friday mornings, they run the extra question pool. And that really gave me my bug back. And I downloaded an app on my Android phone, a free app called Ham Test Prep, because with my vision impairment, I'm completely blind in my left eye. And my right eye, I only have 15 to 18% visual acuity. So certain things are very difficult to operate. I have a Kenwood TS930 SAT HF rig that I can barely use now because I can't see the controls on it. And, it's been sitting in a box since 1999.
Right. So I missed that the IRLP link that you said that you got on with this net. What was that again?
It was IRLP 9251. It's the Star World Star on Echo Link. And they accept everybody from anywhere, and they have different net control operators every day. And it's pretty cool because they have actually 2 female net control operators. They have net control operators from Canada and the U.S., and regular check-ins from places like Nepal and things like that. And it's run by John, W2JLD. And he and I have been talking a lot lately, and it gave me the bug back. And I went and charged up a Yaesu VX8R that I purchased in 2009 and never really took out of the box. I bought the uh, the hand mic for it, the GPS unit, the high capacity battery, and the double A pack, and the drop in charger for it. And the double A pack came from when I was living in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I was very heavily involved back then in Skywarn. I was a spotter for the National Weather Service in Raleigh. I was also a net control operator um, during heavy storms. During Hurricane Hugo in North Carolina, I actually spent an entire week in the basement of the EOC with the governor, providing communications to the Outer Banks.
Wow.
Basically sleeping 2, 3 hours at a time and running the radio. That's what amateur radio is about.
Right. Yeah, I did that when the wasn't the Challenger, when the Columbus exploded here like 10 years ago, something like that, on its reentry. We It exploded right over where I live at, and we were like the first county to find parts of the debris, and it was me and the emergency manager at the time, and the county judge that like spent the first 3 or 4 days after that happened in the EOC.
Yeah, it's something that really interests me, but unfortunately, since I can't drive anymore, and to give you a little bit of background, I have what they call age-related macular degeneration and retinitis pigmentosa. And the age-related macular degeneration usually attacks people between the ages of 68 and 73. I am one in 350 million that actually got it diagnosed at age 34. I'm currently age 48, and it's just progressively getting worse. I've slowed it down with those special vitamins, but my left eye is completely useless. I actually wear an eye patch over it because if I go outside in the sunlight and come back inside, my eyes take about an hour and a half to adjust to the difference in light, where your normal person takes 8 minutes. And my left eye, because I'm so right eye dominant now, actually, it give me migraines and it'll tie me up, and I'll be in a very black room for hours, sometimes days at a time. So my retinal specialist has put me to, wearing the eye patch. So it has saved me, and I can actually do a little bit more now. But there's a lot of things that I've noticed that a lot of these manufacturers for ham radio, they don't think about these things. I know a lot of blind operators. Matter of fact, one of the net control operators, VE100, on Tuesday mornings on that World Radio Net, is a blind operator, and he uses a recorder for check-ins. And I can still see a little bit. I'm not to that point yet, but I believe it was Kenwood actually was the first radio to come out with the speech processor built into a radio. It was an option. I believe it was my friend Jim had it, KB2NKZ, Never Kiss Zebras, he used to say. I believe it was a Kenwood TS430, and it was an optional piece, but at that time it was the only rig that actually had the voice feedback. My 930 SAT does not have it. Um, the newest radio on the market, the ICOM 7300, actually works with the JAWS system for the blind when you hook it up to the computer. So that is going to be eventually, when I can afford to buy a rig, that is going to be my next rig, because I can hook it up to my computer, which is on a 42-inch LCD display, and I can control everything right there with my. I don't use a mouse. I use the trackball, and I can actually do everything right from that big computer screen. And once I do lose my vision completely, the JAWS system will actually read. And it's one of the very first radios on the market that actually does do that.
So, all that stuff sounds like you. Are you still there, Chris?
Yes, you were
Okay.
breaking a little bit. There you are.
All right, here we go. So, that sounds like you really had a lot going on back then. What made you get out of the hobby?
Well, I moved to Las Vegas because of a job change. And see, I was originally in IT. I was had all kinds of certifications. I was a Red Hat certified. I was CCNA, CCDA, Microsoft MCSE, my A plus, Network plus. I had all those certifications, and I moved out here, and I was working for a company out here in Las Vegas from North Carolina, and my vision had been deteriorating so much, and just before it deteriorated enough where I couldn't do it anymore, they downsized the company, and our entire department, all 27 people, even people with 26 years experience, all got laid off.
Wow.
I was working there for 8 years. And it's tough because now I can't do what my specialty is. I was in security, internet security, and I built servers. That's what I did. And with my vision the way it is right now, I can't see the little connections to put a computer together. Every computer that I own, I built. I've never purchased a pre-purchased computer because that's what I went to school for, and that's what I ended up doing. But now I'm to the point where I just can't do it anymore. And I got out of the hobby just because when I got here, to be completely honest, I got on the repeaters and nobody would talk to me.
Right. And, yeah, I actually think I had that problem. I went out there to Las Vegas one time for my uncle's wedding when I was in college. I went to college in Phoenix, and when I went out there, that was the same way. I mean, I keyed up on the repeater and set my call sign and nothing. I don't know if it was just a 5 LAN call sign in another area, another number area or what. Nobody wanted to talk to me or what. But I noticed that it was really strange and it was really sad.
Yes, actually, I was warned about that by friends from North Carolina. They said anytime that they've gone here that nobody ever responded to them. There's a lot of great hams here in this state. I mean, in this city. I mean, there's over 6,000. They had 90 at a testing session the week before. The matter of fact, it was field day. They had a special testing session because they had 90 people testing, and wow. 85 of them were new. New. I took my extra test on July 2nd, and I was the first one in Las Vegas to pass on the new question pool. And I used that app on the phone because it had a black background with a white font, which makes it very easy for me. Everybody kept recommending hamprep.org, the ICOM sponsored site online, but I would use it, but the white background to the visually impaired with the kind of visual impairment that I have, that white background and the light blue font, it would give me migraines trying to study from it. And that was the reason that I found this app on the Android. I just started doing, and I tried different ones, and Ham Test Prep seemed to be the best one for me.
Huh. All right, so we're going to take a quick break real fast before we go on any further. So stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back with these announcements. Are you looking for a new radio? Maybe a laptop or a tablet? Or maybe you're looking for a way to charge your batteries when there's no power? Gigaparts has stuff like this. Head on over to gigaparts.com and check them out. At checkout, use the coupon code of ETH027 to get $10 off a purchase of $150 or more. This coupon is valid until August the 18th, 2016, so head on over there and check them out. So, what, having the visual impairment, have you found some things that can help you just in your everyday operations, as well as the testing thing that you were talking about there?
Well, yeah, Echolink has really become a savior, to be honest. I do have this Yaesu VX8R, and it's quite a shame because the font on it with that yellow background, it doesn't, even though there's a contrast adjustment on it, contrast is not enough for me to actually be able to read it.
Right.
And I mean, it's a dual, actually, they call it a tri-band unit, but it does 2 meters, 6 meters, 440, 5 watts, and on 220, it does 1.25 watts. So I don't know why they call it a tri-band, because it actually does all four. But I actually, this morning, 6 meters must have been open a little bit this morning, because I have it on behind me, and I heard the 6 meter repeater key up, and that's about 80 miles away.
Wow.
And I was actually to return back to it, but nobody actually responded to me.
So, is there like, I know Kenwood at one point in time on the radio that I have in my car, my 733, they had made a voice module that you could buy for it. Do they still make stuff like that for radios where it'll announce the frequencies?
Yes, actually, the ICOM 7300 has it built in.
Wow.
And again, the ICOM 7300 works with the JAWS system. I can actually hook that up through a USB. It uses the old printer style USB, even though most printers don't way anymore. It uses that kind of cable, and you can run everything right from the computer.
Oh, wow.
Which is good because I have a big 43-inch LCD monitor, so I can actually see.
Right.
And it does the voice output. It's built into it. A lot of the Kenwoods had it. Kenwood was the very first one to actually do this with the modules. And there was the 430, I believe it was what my friend had. And he had the optional module in it that read the frequency. The problem is it was not an option on my 930. I don't know why. But there are so many knobs and configurations on it, I can't read the knobs on the radio. So to get it perfectly set, I have to sit there with a magnifying glass, and it's very difficult. So I currently do not have an antenna up. I do live in a house now, so I can put an antenna up, but I need assistance doing so.
Right. Well, I'm sure there's probably some local hams around there somewhere that can help you. I know if you lived around here, I'd come over and help you, but Las Vegas is a little bit of a trek for me from Fort Worth. But so, is there any kind of like, I don't know, like uh, some clubs or anything that have maybe some extra, I don't know, like extra services or extra options that that you have found?
Well, yes, actually, the club that I took the test at, the Nellis Radio Amateur Club, that's Nellis Radio Amateur Club, Nellis Radio Amateur .org, I think, is their website, and they they really helped me a lot. They were very accommodating. They understood that my visual impairment helped me, really kept me from um, being able to move around a lot. So they didn't even make me get up. Way after I took the test, I just raised my hand. They came over, picked up the test, brought it up to grade it, and then he came back. And as when they picked it up, I was like, I felt much better about this before I took the test than I do now.
So did you actually have to do it on paper? Like they couldn't give it to you early?
They can give it to you orally, but I didn't really need that because, like I said, I do have a little bit of vision. I
Mm-hmm.
just have to pick the paper up really close to my eyes, and
Mm-hmm.
I just slowly did it that way. And they did offer um, to assist with that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and Dennis Simon, I give him a plug because he was really really accommodating. He brought the test back and he squatted down in front of the table in front of me and he just looked at me and he said, "Well, I got some news." And I was like, "Oh, here it comes." He goes, "You passed." I was like, "Oh my goodness."
Well, your extra testing went a little bit better than mine did. When I took my extra test, uh, I took I studied and studied and studied, and I was still relatively young, and I took it and was passing it consistently 80s or better on QRZ, and I went and took the test and they started marking them wrong, 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 and I'm like, by the time I get done grading, though, it's like they're like, well, um, you missed like 46 out of 50. I'm like, that's no way. Are you sure you have the right answer key? They looked and looked. Well, huh? You're right. It was the wrong answer key, and I ended up missing like three. Gave me a heart attack. I've been studying all that time, but uh, so one of the reasons that I asked that question, as far as your uh, the club things, is the club spotlight for this episode is kind of a little bit different than my normal club spotlight. This one is going to be on a program, and it's actually the Courage Candy Handy Ham program. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, I have. I actually get the newsletters from them. I have not upped my membership recently. Another reason I have to go back before I forget. Another reason I did become so inactive for so long when my Kenwood TS930 SAT was out for just a general service. I sent it to get it cleaned, and it's an old rig, so I sent it out to get the make sure everything was working right in it, and I was getting ready to move. And when I did, I put my all my radio equipment in storage. I had a Kenwood TMV7A mobile rig with the remote kit. I had like 5 mobile antennas, dual band. I had an Alinco DR210. I had an ICOM WC32A HT, and I only had them in there. I had about 6 base antennas, total of 5 mobiles, and like 6 HTs. And I only had them in there like 2 days, and I wasn't only expecting to have them in there less than a month so I can get them shipped out here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, before I even got to put insurance on it, they were storing gasoline in the unit next door.
I don't like
Came
where the
in
story's going.
Yeah, and they came in and smoked, and I lost
Oh
everything.
no.
And I had some 2 meter amplifiers. I had one 2 meter amplifier that you put 5 watts in and came out with 30. And I had one. I had number 3 of the HTX 202 Radio Shack radio. And the true FM modulation on that, people never believed
Mm-hmm.
that I was talking off of an HT when I was
Mm-hmm.
driving down the road
Yeah, that was
because of
my
that
first
amp.
radio too.
Yeah, and I also had the 246, the mobile unit. Like I said, I lost about in that fire. I lost about $10,000 worth of radio equipment.
Oh my goodness. That would definitely knock me out of the hobby as well. Uh,
The thing I still had left was the 930 and the MFJ 941E antenna tuner. And I don't even really need the antenna tuner because my Kenwood has it built in. But my very first rig I purchased off the same person was a Kenwood TS530. And that was one of those quirky ones with the tubes. And I love that rig. He wanted it back, so he took the 530 back and sold me the 930 for $50. And I only paid 500 for the 530 at the time. So, I used it for 3 years, and then I traded up from the 530 to the contest rig for $50. I thought that was a good bargain.
yeah, that sounds pretty good to me. So, what have you found to be? I mean, obviously, being able to see. But what would you say would be the hardest issue that you've had in losing your sight like this and staying with the hobby?
Logging. Um, the logging programs out there. Even QRZ.com, the pages are all white, and that gives the retinitis pigmentosa actually is what is your peripheral vision,
Mm-hmm.
and it also controls the amount of light your eye. When your pupils dilate when you go outside in the dark.
Right.
You come inside, they minimize for adjustment of light. Well, mine don't do that because of the retinitis pigmentosa is so bad. Well, all of these websites, and they don't have a version where you can invert the colors.
Mm-hmm.
And like QRZ, I can only look at it for a certain amount of time. Logging programs, every single logging program I've seen is white with black text, and that it just makes it so difficult to read.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually use one on my Android phone, and I'll load it up to ADIV, and I'll load it up to my EQSL site, EQSL.net, and I can do it there. But it's really that's the most difficult thing I see is they don't look at these things when they design radios or 6,000 knobs on some of these radios, and you know what that's like for somebody who can't see them. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
on this Kenwood, I have such a hard time, even like going from VFOA to VFOB. I have to get up close and personal with the radio and magnifying glass to be able to see the controls on it.
Right.
Um, And the speech processors, this, like I said, this one doesn't have it, but the speech processors, they do only the frequency and the part of the band you're on. Like even on the new ICOM 7300, like I said, that one works with the JAWS system. But if you were to use the radio, alone, the color display is actually very nice because it has the black background and it's very easy on the vision for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the speech button, it'll only tell you, like, if you're on, it'll say 7.037.00 megahertz, upper sideband, lower
Right.
sideband, whatever. And it won't, it doesn't tell you anything else.
Hmm.
You know, that's the most difficult thing I find out. HTs, oh my goodness. HTs are really, really tough. And that's why I am actually looking forward to that new Kenwood that's coming out. The one that they teased at Dayton, I don't know if you saw it or not, that is going to have the D Star in it.
Mm-hmm.
It has that big, beautiful color display on it. That is something where I would actually be able to use. I struggle with this. I have $500 worth of radio equipment here that when I bought this Yaesu, and I can barely use it because it is completely impossible to go through these menus
Mm-hmm.
because they only offer that yellow with the black LCD, and the contrast just doesn't adjust enough.
Right.
That's the largest problem that I find with the handheld.
Yeah. They're hard enough for me to go through. I mean, the radio that I have now, it's like, okay, there's so many options and so much stuff, and the screen is so small, even for me that has good vision. It's hard to do. I can only imagine what you have to go through to do that. I mean, and with like websites and logging programs and stuff like that, maybe we ought to have like a drive. This is my challenge for all y'all out there that are listening right now. If you have a website, think about what we're talking about here. Think about, you know, adding some kind of button to flip the colors around to like Chris is saying, have a white text on black background option that's easily accessible. And if there's any logging authors or anything like that, think about adding this too. I know I was hitting here messing with my logging program that I use here. And I did find where you can actually go through and change the backgrounds of certain windows and stuff like that to black on white, but it's a long process to go through. I mean, it just needs to be like like a day and night version or something where it can, one click of a button or something like that, and you can change the whole font background color. So that's my challenge to all y'all listeners out there. If you know anybody that has websites, have them put something like that on there. Because we are kind of forgetting hams like Chris that have whatever kind of disability, whether that be vision or hearing or whatever. You know, we need to step up and change the way that we do this so that it's not so hard. So, Chris, is there anything else? Is there anything that you would recommend to any of your fellow hams or anybody that might be going through the same situation as you are? Maybe that's losing their sight or is having some issues with their sight. Is there anything that you would recommend they buy, they try to focus on? What kind of advice would you give somebody like that?
I would give the advice: investigate the radio. Go to a store if you can find one, like ours here in Las Vegas. As you know, AES is closing,
Mm-hmm.
so we're losing our local store. But go to a store or go to another ham's house and look at the rig and see if you feel comfortable with it. Uh, there are quite a few that I've played with that I I'm not comfortable because I can't see the different options. A I would even be willing to beta test for anybody, if they wanted to try something like that. My QRZ information is up to date. That's how you got in touch with me through the email. It is up to date, and I would be certainly willing to assist anybody that's looking to design something like that. There are a lot of blind operators out there. I mean, again, the one WorldNet on Tuesday morning, the E100, Walt, he is a blind operator, and he has literally a recorder, and he has what he calls his secretary that reads off the announcements. And, it's just, there are different things that can be done to assist, because there are a lot more, especially since most of your groups are older, you know, uh, people start losing their sight as they get older. And like I said, the disease I have is age-related macular degeneration. And I got diagnosed with it at 34, where I shouldn't even have it until I was close to 70. But there are different things that you can do to make life easier for people like me. And believe me, I'm willing to spend the money on something that I know I'll be comfortable using. This phone, as a matter of fact, that I'm using right now, is the Galaxy S7 Edge. I did all the research and found the Foundation Fighting Blindness actually recommended this phone as number one over all other phones for accessibility. It has an app in it called Shouter, and that's why when we started talking, I said, "Let me turn off my, as my wife calls it, my girlfriend," because anytime I get an email, it comes in and she'll read out what that I have a new email and what the header is from, and who it's from. And anytime I get a Twitter message, I can't even use the regular Twitter app. I have to use Plume because it has a dark background. So I do a lot of research as far as with the Android phones and stuff. But I'd be willing to work with anyone that is doing logging programs or other programs like that. Um, like I said, I was a computer programmer. I was not a computer programmer. I was on the hardware side. So that's, my niche was hardware. So I'm not afraid to play with Linux. I was Red Hat certified. I will do anything like that, to help anybody, to make life easier for us, because, they may not think about it, but we spend money too.
Well, Chris, I greatly appreciate you coming on today and talking with us about this. I honestly, I don't know. I guess maybe I didn't really realize how hard it would be for somebody that can't see the radio displays. I mean, it's really eye opening, and I hope the rest of my listeners find that the same thing. Is Before we go, is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to, or anything else that you want to share with our listeners?
Yeah, again, I would just like to say that if there's any programmers out there, like you were saying, I'd be more than willing to do any beta testing for them. My email on QRZ is up to date. And I'd like to give a shout out again to John, W2JLD, for running the nets the way he's the net manager, but he has, different net operators for each net, and it's the only net. I think it's the only net that runs on Echolink, that runs from two different countries, like 11 different operators. We even have one of the net operators in Hawaii. We have two women, which is unusual, that are very good. Um, so yeah, definitely a shout out to Don, because if I didn't stumble upon his Echolink, uh, he's connected to the Western Reflector, but it's the Star World Star 9, IRLP 9251 is where you find it on Echolink. And if I didn't stumble onto that, I probably would not have gotten back into the hobby again. And now I'm really doing research into radios and such to find something that actually works for the visually impaired better than some of the gear that's out there. I love my little HT that I have, but the small display just really is too difficult to read, especially when you're running dual band. Um, when I'm running single band on it, at least the numbers are big enough I can see them. But going through those menus is near about impossible because the contrast just is not enough to make it easy to read.
Alrighty, Chris. Well, I guess that about wraps it up for today. I do appreciate again you coming on, and for the rest of y'all, hang around. We've got a couple announcements that we're going to do, and then we're going to talk about our amateur radio club spotlight for this evening, or for this episode rather, the Courage Kenny Handy Ham program. We're going to talk a little bit about it, and then we're going to close out for today. So, Chris, once again, thank you very much, and 73, and thanks for coming on.
Anytime. You ever need any information, just give me a holler. 73.
Well, once again, I want to thank Chris for coming on for this episode. It just so happened that I had this episode planned out before I decided to kind of switch over to a interview style podcast, at least for some episodes. Anyways, I was looking at this. I had this planned out because one of my followers is also a disabled ham, and it got me kind of thinking of what we can do a little bit. And one day I was looking at my recent followers list, and his name popped up, and it said that he was a visually impaired amateur radio operator. So it just like perfect. It just kind of clicked, and away we went. So, Chris, again, thank you very much for coming on, and 73 to you. Alrighty, so as far as our announcement goes, usual thing here, guys and gals, but I gotta do it, okay? Check out my wife's blog at morethansafe.com. Well, it's my wife and mine, as hers predominantly. It's basically a blog describing our journey through the foster care system, some of the problems that we have, general parenting advice, stuff like that. So check that out, morethansafe.com. If you like what you read there, click on the subscribe button and give us your email. We'll send you emails on when we publish a new post over there. Also, if you like what you hear on this podcast and read on this blog, the Everything Ham Radio blog, and you would like to support us somehow, financially or whatever, there's several ways you can do it. You can do it through a one-time donation of PayPal. You can become a monthly contributor through Patreon. You can buy stuff through Amazon using my affiliate link. All these things, on instructions on how to do it, links on where to go and stuff like that, can be found at everythinghamradio.com/support. So head on over there and check that out if you would like to support this podcast. If not, totally understand, totally voluntary basis. My content will always remain free. So, yeah, thank you all very much for your continual support and listening to my podcast. So, let's move on to the Amateur Radio Club Spotlight for this episode. So, this episode, we're talking about the Courage Kenny Handy Ham program. It's not going to be our typical club spotlight. This is a little bit something different. The Courage Kenny Handy Ham program is a program that provides tools for people with disabilities to learn amateur radio and technology skills and to earn their amateur radio license if they don't already have it. They have programs that are designed for to quickly learn about new technologies, including assistive technologies that will help them in other aspects of their lives, not just amateur radio. By working the processes of earning an amateur radio license, Handy Ham members can become familiar with setting goals, following a plan to achieve them. They also, if you become a member of the Handy Ham program, you become a part of a worldwide community of amateur radio operators, just like, becoming a ham. They have lots of support that they give. They have nets every day of the week, or I guess every day, period. It's a daily net, and it's at 11 a.m. Central Time. I'm not going to list where you can get on this net at, though, in the podcast. I actually not even going to do it on the show notes because there is a lot of places. They have Echolink, they have WireX, they have like 5 or 6 different repeaters you can use. There's a lot of ways that you can connect to this Handy Ham net. So check it out. Go to the show notes at everythinghamradio.com/podcast/27. Scroll all the way down the bottom, and under the nets section, you'll see a link that says check out their nets page. So click on that, send it over there, learn where you can get on it. They also have a net on Wednesdays at 1900 Central Time. That's 7 o'clock Central Time. They don't have regular meetings that I could find on their website. If they do, I did not see it at all. I'm thinking this is probably more like a virtual club, kind of, sort of. That's why I say it's a little bit different. But they do have several things that they got. They got a Blinds Ham mailing list that you can sign up for if you're visually impaired. They have a weekly newsletter, both in print. They have it in email format type thing. And I believe they actually even had it in audio format as well. There is a Handy Ham podcast that is listed on iTunes that I found. That's actually how I found the program itself. But the last episode number 25, was recorded back in 2015. So I'm thinking that it's probably not made anymore, but there is 25 episodes on there. You can listen to them. At episode 25, you might be left with wanting more. So they also have a radio camp. I'm not sure exactly how often it is, but I do know it is a week long, and it's like a campground where you can go to, and I'm not even sure exactly what all that you do while you're there, but I'm sure it's probably something along the lines of amateur radio, or maybe some other things. I don't know, but check it out. Check out their website for more information. They also have 2 remote HF base stations that, if you are a member of the club, you can get access to. If you can't put your own antenna up at your house, this is the next best thing. Whether that is because you can't climb the tower, whether it's because you live in an apartment, whether it's because you live with your kids or your parents or whatever. You can access this over the internet, control it, talk on it, all that good stuff. So membership is only $12 a year, or $120 for a lifetime membership. So it's not that expensive. So if you are a disabled ham, whether that be visually impaired, hearing impaired, physically impaired, mentally impaired, whatever, head on over to handyham.org. That's HANDI ham.org, and check them out. Join the club, get all the extra access stuff that you can get, and I hope that you enjoy it. And I guess that about wraps it up for me for this episode. Thanks again to Chris for coming on, and don't forget about the $10 coupon if you go to gigaparts.com. If you're looking to buy a radio, some antenna, computer, whatever, buy $150 worth of stuff, enter ETH027 as the coupon code at checkout, and you get $10 off. Also, check in next week. We will be announcing a special giveaway that Gigaparts is donating for this giveaway. So check out next episode. Make sure you come back. And really, guys, gals, thanks for listening to this episode of the Everything Ham Radio podcast. You can find all the links that we've talked about today, as well as some additional information in the show notes of today's episode at everythinghamradio.com/podcast/27. That's the number 27. If you'd like to receive emails for when I publish a new podcast episode or publish a new blog post, you can go to everythinghamradio.com/subscribe, fill out the information there, and click on the confirm link when you get the email, and you'll start receiving emails from me. We'll also have some additional information that might and might not be on the blog. Also, please follow me on the Facebook at facebook.com/everythinghamradio, and on Twitter at K5CLM. If you would like to help support this podcast, go to everythinghamradio.com/support and check out your options there. Please share this episode with your friends, like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time, this is K5CLM signing out. 73, y'all.